Lou Hamilton from Audible Elegance of Cincinnati, Ohio. We're located a couple doors north of the original Montgomery Inn, across the street from Montgomery Cyclery. We have a website, audibleelegance.com. It's quite a busy page, a lot of things going on there, and we've been adding more items to both our new offerings as well as our used. We've received some quad products and some totem, magnapans, so it's worthy to take a gander over there. I was asked about integrated amplifiers and whether they're sufficient against preamps and power amps. And I'm going to save that one for the next video. But what I wanted to get into is something that's growing more common, which are integrated amplifiers that contain DACs. And this gets to be interesting, or perhaps even have streamers capability in them. And this gets interesting because it goes back to the era when there weren't streamers. Television and RF was, the way of doing things. And I mention RF because that was considered a real hobgoblin in terms of really pure audio performance. And we recently had an example of that in our own store where a streamer was located fairly close to an integrated amplifier, probably 6 or 7 inches, and we immediately started having to deal with kind of a funny hum issue. We didn't know exactly where it was. But RF inside of analog circuitry doesn't necessarily result in a hum, but it can result in a sort of noise obscuring finer details of performance. And this is where the quality of the build of the product, the integrated amplifier, and how they're dealing with the effects of a digital circuit in them, like a DAC or a streamer, affects the rest of the analog performance, not only for turntables and other accessories, but for the streamers themselves. And we've had a wide range of them. We have some lovely units from Cambridge and as well as Riga right now that do a fairly competent job of dealing with it. But if I had my druthers, unfortunately it does cost more, I would separate out the streamers or the DAC units from the integrated amplifier itself, or preamp and power amp, certainly for the potential of RF noise and interference, but also something else, which a lot of people don't consider, which are the power supplies. And when you start building outboard units, they're going to typically be built with really good power supplies that are dedicated to that circuitry. When you have an integrated amplifier and a power supply, it's not only powering the preamplifier circuit and the DAC circuitry or the streaming circuitry, but it's also providing current for the amplifier stage itself. And this is something that the better manufacturers really try to avoid if they can. Sometimes they can't because they're trying to be price conscious to owners. Sometimes there is a desire to have less equipment, smaller stuff. And that's understood by the manufacturers as well. But how well they do the job is not always the same. So before you start hauling off and buying those type of units where you have more of what I call an all-in-one approach, give them a listen against separate products or integrated amplifiers that do not have that circuitry inboard, but actually using a compatible product that's completely separate and outboard from the integrated amp itself. So that's kind of a words of advice as everybody shopping here in the Northern Hemisphere. And you folks down in the Southern Hemisphere, I would imagine you're enjoying a good time outside. At least I hope you are. Here we're getting lots of lovely weather, as we call it. So thank you very kindly. Have a good evening.